Hi guys, welcome back to another video by mykayaplus. So in this video, we are going to do a little bit of fact finding, right? So there has been, unfortunately, a lot of geopolitical events happening in a global scale, and it has led to some repercussions and um, actions in the local scene, particularly in Malaysia. And we're trying to just find out the root cause or the real scenario behind whether the local boycotts um, against some of the notable brands that are impacted, whether they do hold ground or not, right? So, of course, there will be listed companies affected, and we are just going to just pick some of these examples just to, get the ball rolling. And of course, you can also repeat this exercise on your own to see that whether such accusations or such rationale holds ground or not, right? So, of course, since we'll be talking about some listed companies, this by no means is an advice for you to buy, sell, or hold any of the mentioned companies, right? So we're just trying to be as neutral and as factual as possible, right? So I will probably pass the ball to you, Chun Ming. So what has happened, particularly in Malaysia, and what are your personal opinions?
Yeah, if you talk about the boycott activities, it has been continuing. More and more brand got impacted. So this is some of the screenshot they have taken after I did a search in Google. So they are a lot more, be it the food brands that's listed, a global brand or even local brand, like for example, US Pizza, that they already make an announcement saying the US basically represent us, which is kita in the Malay wordings. So all this is just some of the example. A lot of boycott activity has been going on, but what does it really mean? So ultimately, the sentiment on the ground is saying the conflict between the Israel versus Hamas in Gaza is causing a lot of humanitarian concerns. Ultimately, from a personal level, I think the cease of fire is a must, from my personal opinion. No matter what conflict, it shouldn't impact the civilians. The kids and also the women. But of course, right now, both sides are impacted. The civilian are being bombed, for example. And then if you go in talking about the boycott activity, this is typically some of the brand being mentioned and somehow have dotted line or they have some perception to say all this brand is linked to Israel, right? And then I do a little bit of digging. What is the ground or what is some of the fact that the so-called pro-Palestine person are trying to claim. So bear in mind, this is a poster that I managed to find. It's not the latest poster, but then I suppose the claim is the same. This is quite old, I think, a few years back. They're talking about basically Nestle behind the scene, they own some company in Israel. And then, of course, because they own the companies and then the company occupy have some production plant in the land of Israel, we're supposed to be belong to Palestine long time back. A lot more thing, dotted like correlation. And then this is how they claim that we should boycott Nestle because they are pro Israel, right? So because of that, then we zoom into it and do some fact finding because we cannot just one-sided blinded by a lot of posting in TikTok or whatnot. If you wanted to have some fact, Nestle, as an example, we pick inside this video, is founded by this guy, Henry Nestle. He's basically a German Swiss, and cause the company itself is a Swiss company. No relation with Israel at all. And then if you fast forward 100 years later, this particular company, Nestle SA, that's listed in Swiss, what are the list of shareholders? So this is the key shareholder, although the largest shareholder is 3.517 is by the Vanguard Group's US. And then if you look in this so-called top 10 shareholder, none of these have a Israel flag on it, right? Then we check on further and how they operate. So beside the holding company in Swiss, they basically do a lot of uh, operation outside of Swiss. Let's say that when they go to Malaysia, they have a Berhad in place, meaning they have a listed company. And then from a holding perspective, take this as an example, they hold about 72%, the mother company. Uh, they hold 72% of Nestle Malaysia entities. And the rest is, of course, by the other retail investor or institution investor. So again, from a local point of view, although it's owned by the big boys, which is the mother company by 72%, but you still have a big chunk of it, let's say 25% in Malaysia context is owned by the whoever, basically the local, right? And then if we don't talk about Nestle, we talk about the brand itself. Our favorite brand Milo, is technically an Australian brand and then eventually got acquired by Nestle. So nothing to do with Israel. So this kind of example I can go on and on, but then Japan, you wanted to give a little bit more thought process on how you approach this thing. And try to how do you find the information?
Well, I think first of all, going through the list of major shareholders of Nestle, Swiss SA, and also um, the brands that Nestle owns, you don't really see strong correlations between whether the company is affiliated with Israel or Jewish or not, right? And if you were to zoom into just locally, right, just local Nestle Malaysia, perhaps, you can see on the left side. So on the left side, that is a snapshot of actually the top shareholders of Nestle Malaysia. Of course, mentioned the Swiss listed company owns around 73% of Nestle Malaysia perhaps, right? And you mentioned just now the balance is actually made up of other shareholders. And if you were to look at the breakdown, you can see that second top largest shareholders is actually our EPF, our Employees Provident Fund Board, which is in simple terms local Malaysians, right? So EPF is actually investing into Nestle Malaysians on our behalf, and that investments also generate a portion of our dividend payout and also our EPF capital as we slowly accumulate wealth until we retire. So if the thought notion is that Nestle Switzerland and Nestle Malaysia are all entities linked back to the Jewish state or Israel, why is EPF the sole body that is in charge of managing our investments, our retirement investments, and we are still in a Islamic country where I think as a country as a totality we are still quite supportive of Palestine. Why are they still holding on to Nestle Malaysia shares, right? And if you look at the latest snapshot of the total shares that are held under EPF, so the shares actually increased by 10%. So compared to what they hold back in February was just 20.7 million. And fast forward to 20th of November, which is the date that we managed to get the snapshot. So you can see the number of shares actually grown by 2 million. So EPF is actually increasing their stake and increasing their shares in a company that is supposedly having ties with the Jewish state, right? So that doesn't hold any very solid ground. If parties or even our EPF board is actually doing something that is doesn't seem to jive with the general sentiment. So I think just really need to put some thought to it and to see whether the boycott activities hold ground and hold logic. So these are just some facts that we wanted to highlight and throw out there for people to think deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add on, but if you wanted to really make some correlation, this is the company I mentioned earlier. They basically fully acquired this company called OSEM, which is an Israel owned companies. I think the investment was made back in 2016 or something, right? So this is the
Yeah,
only thing. But again, think of it, you are a big company, you operate everywhere. So
yeah,
if you're saying they own a company 100% in Israel, they also own a company, Nestle Bhd in Malaysia, which they have the stake of 72%. So this is all about business that they expand regionally. And then if you want to talk about this, Facebook, I mean, a lot of big tech giant, they also have local entity or locals office in Israel as well. So if you wanted to boycott in that aspect, then the whole thing is very broad. You basically need to boycott almost everything. I may be wrong, but then this is just some of the angle I want to bring out. So like it or not, before we basically wanted to advocate a certain stance, I think we also need to be logical and try to uh, put up some facts finding before we just go into it. Of course, uh, all these things did contributed to the sentiments. Uh, the Nestle Malaysia Berhad share price did basically drop, especially in the recent 6 months. You can see the peak is actually happened in somewhat early to the middle of October, and then increased back, it dropped again because the whole tension between Israel and Palestine goes on, right? But from my perspective, this kind of thing it won't last forever because all the netizen or all the people's ultimately they are human impacted by emotion, but even I mean essentially human are logical as well, so all these things will be made back to normal after the emotion is gone. Then you realize some of the fact that we have shared out probably is something that they will find out sooner or later, and when the things back to a little bit normal, the sentiment is being cooled down. I believe the boycott activity probably will be gone, right? So, if you are investor of Nestle Malaysia, I don't know when it will bounce back. To be honest, but fundamentally, there isn't any changes to the business itself, especially when you're talking about Nestle Malaysia Berhad. But if you talk about the sales, probably there's some impact due to the boycott. Other than that, the sales, the profit margins, the technology, all those things is still stay intact with the company itself. And they has been successful for so many
yeah.
years. This is something to take notes. Anything to add on, Jupan, before we cover this thing up here?
Yeah, I think the lesson of today's video is to just dive back with um, facts and figures and also common sense, right? If Nestle really is a company that is advocating massacre, then definitely our national um, employees provident fund would also see to that extent that and that investments of the national public should not be advocating to such companies endorsing such kind of actions. But if that's not the case, then I think, as what you mentioned, the short-term impact would be temporary because we wouldn't foresee any strict actions or measures against the company, which may, overall affect the company's performance. But on a short-term basis, of course, sales revenue will be hurt, and these companies that are unfairly affected by the boycott might see their upcoming quarters revenue affected. But if what you say is true, that emotions fade away and logic and common sense tend to or over come such kind of short-term overreactions, then yeah, things would actually recover for companies affected in the likes of Nestle Bhd and also some other companies that have been mentioned. So I think the kind of exercise and the kind of thought process, how you go to analyze and decipher and distinguish facts from, facts from accusations or, uh, points that might not be so true. It can also go to other aspects as well. So you can also do it in a very fundamental way, whether the company is able to continue growing as what the founders say, or whether short sellers accusations holds ground or not. So I think we have been practicing this kind of thought process and analysis a lot of time. Just like most of the time, it's just companies based outside of Malaysia, but in this time, we managed to pick local Malaysia affected by some sort of situation, and hopefully you really enjoy the thought process and analysis about it. So I think that's it. If you do have any questions, or do you want us to analyze other kind of company, or let us know what kind of opinions or what kind of comments that you have with regards of the current boycott issues happening in Malaysia. Do you really agree with it, or do you feel that the facts that we have presented might not be too might not be too complete? So let us know in the comment section, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.